Hey, it's James. In this episode of the Inversiverse, we journey deeper into the currents beneath perception, where invisible forces shape our decisions, beliefs, and even our sense of self. Marketing tells us what to want, game theory predicts how we'll chase it, and control theory, it silently steers the path we take to get there. But what happens when we stop to ask whose game we are playing? Who set the rules? Who benefits from our choices? And are they our own? Today, we unravel the hidden systems of persuasion and influence, from the boardrooms that engineers desire, to the algorithms that optimize behaviour, to the internal feedback loops that keep us aligned with goals we may not have chosen. This episode explores how human thought, strategy, and manipulation intersect. We'll also bring in the crucial ally, critical thinking, which is not just a buzzword, but as a tool of resistance, because in a world designed to guide, prod, and predict your every move, discernment may be your last defense. Welcome to episode 8, The Invisible Game. So let's start with marketing. Marketing is identifying, creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society. It involves strategies and practices that connect businesses with their target audience, ensuring mutual value and satisfaction. The etymology of marketing, word root. Marketing derives from the noun market, which in turn comes from Latin mercatus, meaning a trade, market, commerce. From the verb mercere, to buy, to trade and to buy, rooted in mercis, goods, merchandise. So at its origin, marketing is deeply tied to the act of buying and selling, specifically the space or system where that happens. Historical evolution, 12th to 14th century, Old French and Middle English. Old French marché, marketplace, deal, bargain. Middle English, market referred to a physical location where goods were bought and sold. Marketing at this time would have implied the act of going to the market or trading. Between the 16th and 17th century, began to take a broader sense of commerce and trade activities, especially around the exchange of goods, beyond just the physical market. The late 19th to early 20th century. With the rise of capitalism and mass production, marketing evolved to mean that activities involved in promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising. This is when marketing started becoming a strategic field, separate from just sales. So let's now look at the breakdown in subfields of marketing. Number 1, we have traditional marketing. Focuses on offline methods to promote products and services. Key channels, print advertising, ads in newspapers, magazines, brochures, and flyers. Example, full-page magazine ads for luxury brands like Rolex. Known figures, David Ogilvy, often called the father of advertising. Broadcast advertising, television and radio commercials. Example, Coca-Cola's famous I'd Like to Buy the World a Coke campaign. Known figures, Rosso Reeves, pioneer of the unique selling proposition concept, USP. Outdoor advertising, billboards, posters and transit ads. For example, the Times Square digital billboards or the Piccadilly Circus billboards in London. Number 2, digital marketing involves online platforms and tools to engage customers. Subfields of digital marketing include search engine optimization, SEO, optimizing websites to rank higher in search engine results. Example, using keywords to rank a blog on Google. Known figures, Rand Fishkin, founder of Moz. Content marketing, which is creating and sharing valuable content to attract and retain customers. Example, HubSpot's blog posts and resources. Known figures, Joe Polizzi, author of Epic Content Marketing. Then we have social media marketing, leveraging platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Example, influencer collaborations on Instagram. Known figures, Gary Vaynerchuk, an expert in social media marketing. Then we have email marketing, sending personalized messages to engage subscribers. Example, weekly newsletters from brands like New York Times. Pay-per-click, paid ads on search engines and social media platforms. An example of such, Google Ads campaign for e-commerce sites. Number 3, brand marketing, which focuses on building a strong, recognizable brand identity. Key components of brand marketing include visual branding, logos, colors, and designs. Example, Nike swoosh logo and tagline, just do it. Brand storytelling, creating a compelling narrative around the brand. For example, Apple's emphasis on innovation and simplicity. Known figures, Marty Neumeier, The Brand Gap. Then number 4, product marketing, which centers around promoting and positioning specific products. Key strategies of product marketing include product positioning, defining how a product stands out in the market. For example, Tesla's focus on sustainability and technology. Then we have go-to-market strategies, launching new products or entering new markets. For example, Apple's well-known product launch events. Number 5, relationship marketing, prioritizes building long-term relationships with customers. Key aspects of relationship marketing include customer loyalty programs, rewards program to retain customers. Example, Starbucks rewards for frequent customers. Known figures, Philip Kotler, author of Marketing Management. Customer experience, CX, enhancing the customer journey. For example, Amazon's focus on fast delivery and user-friendly interfaces. Number 6, performance marketing. Performance marketing focuses on measurable, result-orientated campaigns. Examples include affiliate marketing, which is partnering with affiliates to promote products. Examples, bloggers earn commissions for product referrals, which you often see on TikTok and YouTube. Known figures, Pat Flynn, affiliate marketing expert. Analytics and matrix, using tools like Google Analytics to track campaign performances. Event marketing, number 7. Event marketing engages audiences through physical or virtual events. Types: trade shows, industry-specific exhibitions, example, the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, webinars and virtual events, online seminars to share expertise, example, Salesforce's Dreamforce events. Number 8. Influencer marketing collaborates with individuals who have a significant following. Applications include product endorsements, influencers showcasing products, example, YouTubers promoting gaming accessories, social media campaigns, leveraging influencers' reach for brand awareness. Number 9. Non-profit and cause marketing aligns marketing efforts with social or environmental causes. Examples include charity campaigns, collaborating with organisations to drive donations. Examples: Tom's One for One initiative, known figures Seth Godin, advocate for ethical marketing practices. Then we have number 10. Guerrilla marketing uses unconventional, creative tactics to promote brands. Examples include flash mobs, public performances promoting a product. An example of this was T-Mobile's flash mob adverts. Street art campaigns, creative graffiti or installations. For example, Coca-Cola's happiness vending machines. Number 11. Global marketing focuses on expanding brand presence across international markets. Strategies include localization, tailoring campaigns to regional preferences. Example, McDonald's offers different menus in various countries. Standardization, using a consistent brand message globally. For example, Coca-Cola's universal branding of happiness. Number 12. Business-to-business and business-to-customer marketing. Business-to-business marketing focuses on marketing products, services to other businesses. Example, Salesforce CRM software. Business-to-consumer, B2C, marketing directly to the individual consumers. Example, Netflix personalized streaming service. So let's summarize marketing. Marketing is a diverse field with sub-branches tailored to different goals, audiences, and platforms. Key branches include, number 1, traditional marketing, which focuses on offline strategies like print and broadcast. Number 2, digital marketing, which is online tools like SEO, content, and social media. Number 3, brand marketing, which is creating a strong brand identity. Product marketing, number 4, which is promoting specific products. Number 6, relationship marketing, fostering customer loyalty with examples of loyalty cards and rewards for purchases made. Number 6, performance marketing, which is data-driven campaigns to target specific audiences from analytics. Number 7, event marketing, physical and virtual engagements between customer and retailer. Number 8, influencer marketing, leveraging an influencer's power to reach its target audiences. Number 9, cause marketing, which is aligning with social causes such as charities, for example, raising money for cancer. Number 10, guerrilla marketing, which is creative and unconventional tactics to reach the audience. Number 11, global marketing, which is expanding internationally, not just in one country. An example of such is McDonald's tailoring its menus depending on its locality. Number 12, business-to-business and business-to-customer marketing, which is catering to businesses or consumers. Each branch of marketing contributes uniquely to reaching and engaging the target audience effectively and as efficiently as possible. Now that we've explored the world of marketing, let's delve into game theory and control theory and examine how all three, marketing, game theory, and control theory, intertwine to influence behaviour, perception, and society. Previously, we looked at the historical roots of marketing, from simple systems of bartering and local market stalls to today's hyper-targeted strategies that reach us daily through digital technology. We now live in a world where marketing is no longer on an occasional encounter. It's ubiquitous, persistent, and largely inescapable. Modern marketing employs a range of psychological mechanisms and behaviour conditioning techniques developed and refined by corporations. We have shifted from being marketed to for essential goods, such as food, clothing, shelter, to being conditioned to desire non-essential products. These desires aren't natural, they're cultivated. This conditioning, embedded within the structure of marketing strategies, reshapes our values and priorities. But marketers today are no longer simply suppliers of goods and services. They are engineers of perception, projecting branded identities, lifestyles, and ideologies onto us. Their influence extends far beyond what we buy. It affects how we see ourselves, and even how we define success, beauty, and status. This creates material and social division, those who have and those who do not have. In this way, marketing becomes a form of social conditioning, with clear consequences for our psychological and emotional well-being. More concerning still, we are now witnessing a new evolution in corporate influence. Companies are increasingly projecting their political ideologies into the public sphere. Through carefully crafted messaging, sponsorship, and curated social narratives, corporations are positioning themselves as moral authorities, contributing to the polarization of public discourse and identity politics. What once may have been personal or cultural beliefs are now being shaped by branded ideologies where we consent to it or not, such as by the World Economic Forum, which is intent on replacing humans with AI and promoting cultural Marxism. This manipulation extends into governance, as corporations lobby governments to create or alter laws, regulations, policies, and public guidance to serve corporate interests. This is where control theory comes into play. Corporations, like any controlling system, seek to minimize deviation from desired behavior. Through the use of feedback loops, advertising, media, pricing, and political pressure, they influence societal behavior in a way that maintains their control and maximizes their gain. Game theory, meanwhile, explains the strategic interactions at play. Corporations and governments act as rational agents pursuing their interests. The games they play, whether with the consumer, regulator, or each other, are based on anticipation, manipulation, and competition. In this context, consumers are not just players, but often pawns, caught in games they don't even realize they are part of. So what is game theory? Game theory is a branch of mathematics and economics that studies strategic interactions between rational decision makers, where the outcome for each participant depends on the choices of all involved. It is widely used to analyze and predict behaviors in competitive and cooperative environments. Key components of game theory include 1. The players, the decision makers in the game, e.g. individuals, firms, nations, etc. Example, 2 companies competing in a market. Number 2. Strategies, the possible actions each player can take. For example, pricing strategies, high or low. And we've recently seen this on the international stage where Donald Trump has laid down tariffs towards China and China have counteracted with higher tariffs, and they go back and forth. Number 3, the payoff, the outcomes or rewards resulting from a combination of players' strategies, for example, profit, utility, or market share. Number 4, the games, the structured interaction amongst players. Simultaneous games, players make decisions at the same time without knowing the other's choices. Example, rock, paper, scissors. Then we have sequential games, players make decisions in turns, observing previous moves. An example of this is chess. And number 5, final key component of game theory, equilibrium, a situation where no player can benefit by changing their strategy while others keep theirs unchanged. This is known as Nash equilibrium. So let's look at some key concepts in game theory. Number 1, Nash equilibrium, a stable state where no player gains by deviating unilaterally. An example, in the prisoner's dilemma, pictured, both prisoners staying silent is a Nash equilibrium. Researcher, mathematician John Nash. Number 2, dominant strategy, a strategy that provides a better payoff regardless of what the other players do. Example, choosing to defect in the prisoner's dilemma game. Number 3, zero-sum games, a situation where one player's gain is exactly equal to another's loss. For example, poker. Number 4, cooperative vs non-cooperative games. Cooperative games, players form alliances and negotiate outcomes. Example, mergers between companies. Non-cooperative games, players act independently without collaboration. For example, price wars. Number 5, mixed strategies. Players use a probability distribution over available strategies. Example of this includes randomizing between different marketing tactics. Number 6, repeated games. Games that occur multiple times allow strategies to evolve. For example, price setting in oligopolies over several quarters. Key models in game theory, as previously discussed. Number 1, prisoner's dilemma, demonstrates why 2 rational individuals might not cooperate, even if it's in their best interest. Example, companies choosing between competing or colluding on prices. Number 2, hawk-dove game, models conflict and aggression vs compromise in resource sharing. Example, international trade disputes, as we've also seen recently in the news between the USA and China. Number 3, the ultimatum game. One player proposes a split of resources and the other can accept or reject. Example, salary negotiations. Or another example, the European Union recently offered 0% tariffs to the USA, in which they can either accept the 0% tariffs or they can send an opposing increment of tariffs back. Either way, both parties have to negotiate. They can either accept or reject. Number 4, the stag hunt explores trust and risk in cooperative ventures. Example, partners decided whether to invest in high-risk, high-reward project. And number 5, matching pennies, a zero-sum game where players have opposing interests. For example, cybersecurity, the hacker versus the defender. Key researchers and publications in game theory include number 1, John von Neumann and Oscar Morgenstern, founders of game theory with their work, Theory of Games and Economic Behavior, year 1944. Number 2, John Nash, developed the concept of Nash equilibrium, earning the Nobel Prize in 1994. Number 3, Robert Axelrod explored the evolution of cooperation, year 1984, how cooperation emerges in repeated interactions. Number 4, Lloyd Shapley co-developed the Shapley value, a method for fair resource allocation. An example is used in cost sharing among collaborators. Number 5, Thomas Schelling applied game theory to international relations and nuclear strategy, taken from the Strategy of Conflict, 1960. Examples of game theory implementation in the modern world. Number 1, Google ad auctions. Companies bid for keywords using game theory principles to maximize return of investment, ROI. Number 2, ride-sharing platforms such as Uber. Matching drivers with passengers efficiently involves game theoretic algorithms. Number 3, the COVID-19 vaccine development. Competing pharmaceutical companies use game theory to strategize investments and collaborations. Number 4, energy markets. Power grid management uses game theory to balance supply and demand. Let's now turn our attention to control theory before exploring how it interconnects with game theory and marketing. Together, these systems form a triad of influence, strategies used not only to predict and shape human behaviour, but to engineer desire, influence identity, and reconfigure societal norms. As we've begun to uncover in the Inversiverse, the question is no longer simply what do we want, but rather who decided what we should want. Are the desires we pursue truly our own, or are they carefully curated by corporations, governments, and digital systems designed to indoctrinate us through repetition, reward, and reinforcement? Control theory, in its essence, is about regulation. It's a study of how systems maintain stability by minimizing deviation from a desired state. In human terms, this translates to feedback loops that guide our behaviors, whether through social pressure, algorithmic suggestion, or cultural norms. These loops are reinforced through technology, media, and institutional structures, often without our conscious awareness. When combined with marketing, which crafts narratives to shape emotion and value, and game theory, which predicts strategic interactions between decision makers, we begin to see a system that doesn't just reflect our choices, but manipulates the options we're allowed to choose from. This curated reality influences us on both individual and collective levels. Psychologically, it alters our values, attention spans, and emotional well-being. Society, it fragments our communities, deepens inequality, and reinforces polarizing ideologies, and all the while the illusion of choice remains intact, making it all the more difficult to question the system from within. In the context of the Inversiverse, this raises a vital question. If our sense of reality has been shaped by systems designed to guide our behaviour, how do we reclaim our perception and reprogram ourselves back into awareness? Control theory definition is an interdisciplinary field that studies how to influence the behaviour of dynamic systems over time using feedback and control mechanisms. It is widely applied in engineering, robotics, economics, biology, and even psychology and sociology. At its core, control theory aims to regulate system outputs to achieve desired goals despite disturbances or changing environments. Control theory in social sciences and psychology. Control theory in this context is less about engineering systems and more about feedback loops in behaviour, self-regulation, and societal conformity. Number 1. Psychological control theory, self-regulation. Control theory was adopted into psychology to explain how individuals regulate behaviour to meet goals. Core concepts are people compare their current state, e.g. behaviour, emotions, and progress, to a reference point, known as a goal or a desired state. Discrepancies trigger actions to reduce the gap, just like a thermostat system, but within people and their physiological bodies. Key elements include reference value, personal goal, e.g. weight loss or studying more. Then there's the perceived state, the current behaviour or performance. Then there's a comparator, a cognitive process that evaluates the discrepancy. Number 2, and then the output function, behaviour adjusted to match the goal. Finally, the feedback loop, continuous cycle or a correction. Example, a student aims for an A in their studies, which is the goal. After a poor test score, which is the feedback, they increase their study time. This is the adjustment. Roy Baumeister's work on self-control and ego depletion aligns with this model. Related theories include Carver and Shire's control theory of self-regulation, 1982 to 1998. Then there's perceptual control theory, PCT, William Powers, who suggests we act to control perceptions rather than actions directly. Number 2, sociological control theory, which is known as social bond theory. Control theory in sociology, particularly criminology, is used to understand why people conform to social norms rather than deviate. Travis Hershey's social control theory, 1969, suggests that individuals refrain from deviance due to strong social bonds. These are known as attachment, emotional connection to others, commitment, investment in conventional activities, e.g. school or career, involvement, time spent in normative activities, and then belief, acceptance of social norms. If these bonds weaken, deviant behaviour is more likely. Application of Hershey's control theory includes and explains juvenile delinquency and crime, used in restorative justice practices. Social control theory was utilised against the people during COVID-19 pandemic in 2020-2021, and I'll elaborate on this example in the coming slides. Number 3, cybernetics and systems thinking in social psychology. Inspired by Norbert Wiener's cybernetics, social systems are seen as self-regulating networks, e.g. groups, organisations, and societies adjust behaviours based on internal feedback. Gregory Bateson and Niklaus Luhmann applied this to communication and social systems. When the potential threat of a virus originating from China, COVID-19, was first announced, the initial response from governments was dismissive. We were told there was little to worry about. Only older individuals, those aged 50 or 60 and above, were considered vulnerable and advised to take precautions. But as shown in the accompanying diagram, this moment marked a significant shift. Governments via the mainstream media began to seed cognitive disruption, subtly then with increasing force, into public consciousness. Each day the urgency increased. The media began broadcasting shocking, unverified footage of people collapsing in the streets of China. No medical evidence or autopsy reports confirmed COVID as the cause, yet these images were presented as truth. This was no accident, it was deliberate strategy, a psychological trigger designed to hijack our emotional systems, shifting us from calm rationality into fear and reactive urgency. This psychological switch, this shift from conscious awareness to subconscious survival mode, is foundational to control systems. In the Inversiverse, we call this a perceptual override. The population's critical faculties are bypassed, replaced by an emotional need for security. This urgency demanded a response, and the state provided one. Lockdowns. Within weeks of the crisis spreading to Italy, the UK government rolled out sweeping restrictions. Loaded language followed. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, a phrase that became a compliance mantra. At this point, many surrendered their personal autonomy to the state, and what did this health-first response look like? Gyms, essential for immune strength, were closed. Access to sunlight, vitamin D, a key immune booster, was discouraged. Meanwhile, fast food chains like McDonald's remained open, offering ultra-processed food filled with toxins. These contradictory decisions revealed the true intent. This wasn't about public health, it was about controlling behaviour. This was classic problem-reaction-solution, a known psychological manipulation model. Create a crisis, provoke panic, then offer the solution that consolidates control. As fear deepened, the population became more malleable. People wrapped themselves in plastic, donned ineffective masks, and some even wore full hazmat suits. While reporters in these supposed danger zones were shown with no protective equipment at all, the illusion was cracking, but the emotional grip remained. 24-hour rolling news, daily death counters, constant slogan reinforcement, such as "Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives." This was marketing used as a psychological warfare. The entire media ecosystem became a feedback loop of fear, driving subconscious compliance while bypassing rational analysis. The Eat Out to Help Out scheme, seemingly generous, was another nudge tactic. It was a full-blown marketing strategy, encouraging conformity and obedience while appearing benevolent. Meanwhile, PCR testing was rolled out en masse, but the test, as later acknowledged, was never designed to diagnose COVID-19. It amplified viral particles indiscriminately, creating a flood of false positives, up to 93% in some reports. These figures were used to justify continued lockdowns and mass fear campaigns. Even more disturbing were the misclassified deaths. If a person died within 30 days of a positive test, even if run over by a tank, the death was lodged as COVID-related. This manipulation of statistics was either incompetence or intentional deceit. Either way, it revealed the absurdity behind the facade. Simultaneously, governments monitored online behaviour, social media responses, and search trends, measuring compliance and tailoring psychological tactics in real time. The public became subjects in a global experiment of behavioural engineering. As restrictions grew more illogical, dependencies on state guidance deepened. Millions lost livelihoods, while multinational corporations amassed unprecedented wealth. Independent businesses were crushed, and citizens were bombarded with messaging designed to turn them against one another. Family bonds were tested. People who questioned the narrative were labelled conspiracy theorists, in need of re-education. Propaganda leaflets advised how to identify and isolate radical thinkers. This wasn't just about virus control, it was mass behavioural control, indoctrination through fear, repetition, and isolation. Meanwhile, under the cover of the crisis, laws, statutes, and regulations were quietly rewritten. In many cases, this meant bypassing common law and human rights, replacing them with statutes rooted in corporate and maritime law, another layer of control few understood. Today, we find ourselves living in a world where questioning the government online can lead to arrest. Surveillance has intensified. Social platforms censor dissent. Yet overwhelming evidence now proves the deceit. The COVID inquiry has exposed internal messages, including one from former Health Secretary Matt Hancock stating, "With this next virus, we'll get them scared into doing what we want." A chilling admission of deliberate manipulation. If the virus was so dangerous, it wouldn't need to be marketed, promoted, and they wouldn't need to go out their way to find and make up the numbers. There's an admission that people weren't testing. Could that be because not as many people were affected by it as they would like you to believe? A total pandemic, to influence behaviour and assume greater power and control. No conspiracy theories involved. We were able to discern from the curated theatrics to present urgency. This is the essence of the Inversiverse, a reality shaped not by truth, but by curated illusion. A world where emotional hijacking replaces critical thought, where compliance is engineered, not earned, and where freedom, unless reclaimed, will be nothing more than a memory. So let's look at control theory in real-world interventions. Number 1. Therapy and mental health, self-regulation models. Control theory is foundational in cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, and self-regulation therapies. Application. Therapists help clients identify cognitive distortions, known as feedback errors, and set behavioural goals. Reference points. Biofeedback and neurofeedback therapy uses psychological data, for example heart rate, brain waves, to help clients self-correct emotional states. An example of such, emotional regulation in trauma therapy. Clients are trained to detect internal dysregulation and apply coping mechanisms. And then dialectical behavioural therapy, DBT, includes modules like distress tolerance and emotional regulation, which are feedback-based. Number 2, educational systems, goal setting and feedback loops. Students and teachers function in a control system with set goals, ongoing feedback and adjustments to learning. Programs, self-regulated learning, SRL, frameworks help students monitor their performance and adjust their strategies. Formative assessment in classrooms acts like real-time feedback, guiding teaching adaptations. Examples of such, online learning platforms like Khan Academy or Duolingo give adaptive feedback to nudge learners towards mastery. Number 3, addiction recovery and habit change. Behavioural control therapy underpins many behaviour modification programs, including 12-step programs like AA for Alcoholics Anonymous, contingency management in substance abuse treatment, rewards-based behaviour reinforcement. Mechanisms, Tracking behaviour over time, noticing the error, reinforcing positive steps towards goal. Number 4, health psychology and biofeedback. Wearable technology, such as Fitbit watches, Oura rings, work like personal control systems, tracking health stats and suggesting behavioural changes. Also, smart health interventions, which send notifications when you deviate from your wellness goal, e.g. sedentary alerts. Number 5, organisational behaviour. In HR and leadership, control theory informs performance management systems. Leaders set KPIs, known as performance indicators, monitor progress, feedback, and coach corrections. Game theory in real-world interventions. 1. Conflict resolution and peace building. Game theory is used in designing peace treaties, ceasefires, and negotiations between conflicting parties. Programs include negotiation and mediation training. Use game theory to teach understanding of opponent incentives. BATNA, an acronym for Best Alternative to Negotiated Agreement, and trust building. Example of use: Israeli-Palestinian negotiation simulations use repeated games to model how trust can emerge and be broken. Number 2, therapy and relationship counselling. Couples therapy often uses game theory to cover strategic patterns in communication and conflict. Techniques incorporated. Therapists may use iterated prisoner's dilemma logic to explain why tit-for-tat retaliation can escalate conflict. Transactional analysis borrows from game theory in mapping destructive behavioural cycles. Number 3, education and classroom management. Classroom games are designed using game theory principles, which include rewards, fairness, and incentives to shape group cooperation. Teachers design participation systems that avoid free rider problems and dominance. Example, cooperative learning groups structured like public good games to encourage contribution. Number 4, public health campaigns. Game theory is used to predict vaccine adoption, e.g. during COVID-19. Design incentive schemes for healthier choices. Example, governments frame choice as social dilemma. Your vaccination protects others, encouraging cooperation for herd immunity. In this example, ChatGPT directly uses the concept of framing and is explicitly used as a form of psychological conditioning. The statement that COVID-19 vaccines or vaccines save lives is presented as unquestionable fact within public health messaging and media campaigns. However, this assertion is highly contested and in many respects unproven through long-term empirical evidence, particularly regards to the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine and other rapidly developed COVID-19 vaccines. These vaccines were released under emergency use authorizations, which meant that they bypassed the full extent of standard safety and efficacy trials that they are typically required for pharmaceutical products. The clinical trials were accelerated and data was collected under time constraints that did not allow for long-term observation of side effects, particularly in relation to novel technologies such as mRNA-based delivery systems, which had not previously been used at a scale in humans. Participants in these trials and subsequent mass vaccination campaigns were often not fully informed about the long-term, unknown, or the experimental nature of the technology, while regulatory agencies such as the FDA and MHRA proved conditional approval based on early safety and efficacy data. Many experts and observers have pointed out that the definition of safe and effective was framed in relative and short-term terms, rather than based on long-term independent studies. This framing leads to a problematic assumption in public messaging that the vaccines unequivocally save lives. While some data has suggested a reduction in severe illnesses and hospitalizations among certain demographics, the claim lacks nuance and transparency, especially considering reports of vaccine-associated adverse events. These include myocarditis, pericarditis, and rare clotting disorders, particularly in younger populations, acknowledged by bodies such as the CDC, MHRA, and EMA. Furthermore, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, in the United States and the Yellow Card Scheme in the UK have documented thousands of reports of serious adverse reactions and deaths temporarily linked to vaccination. While correlation doesn't equal causation, the sheer number and consistency of these reports warrant greater scrutiny rather than blind acceptance of the safe and effective mantra. In this context, the public health campaign can be seen as a form of strategic framing, a psychological device used to reduce resistance, encourage uptake, and normalise compliance. This is consistent with techniques used in behavioural science and nudging theory, as documented in the work of the UK's behavioural insights teams during the pandemic. To frame the statement, the vaccine saves lives, as undisputed fact, despite unresolved scientific questions and ongoing nature of data collection, misrepresents the complexity of the situation and undermines informed consent. In essence, this is not just a medical claim, but a political and psychological tool, used to manufacture public consensus, marginalise dissent, and present compliance as virtue. Optional references sources to support further. Pfizer's EUA documentation via the FDA, MRHA Yellow Card Response Reports UK, CDC VAERS System, BMJ articles questioning transparency in vaccine trials, e.g. Doshi 2021, the WHO Emergency Use Listing Policy documents, paper on vaccine risk-benefits analysis in younger populations, e.g. risk of myocarditis, literature on psychological framing and behavioural nudging in public health. Number 5. Digital design, UX and human-computer interaction. Apps and platforms use behavioural game theory to nudge user behaviour via incentives, gamification. Social media algorithms strategically shape interaction by rewarding engagements like streaks, etc. Example, Duolingo uses loss aversion and daily streaks, a form of repeated game feedback to maintain user retention. Tinder and swiping apps, incentive structures gamify dating using match probability and feedback loops. Number 6, AI, robotics and human behaviour modelling. Game theory helps build multi-agent systems where humans and AI cooperate or compete. Control theory plus game theory used together in human-robot interactions, for example, autonomous vehicles and smart assistants. Further examples include self-driving cars anticipate other drivers' behaviours using predictive control and Nash-like modelling. AI negotiation bots stimulate compromise and bluffing strategies from game theory. Psychological studies that apply these frameworks. Here are key studies and models combining game control theory with real behaviour and perception shifts. A. Cognitive dissonance theory, Festinger, 1957. Control theory element. Individuals experience internal feedback error when beliefs and actions misalign. Game theory element. Individuals may strategically shift beliefs or behaviours to resolve dissonance. This is to maintain social image or avoid punishment. B. Stanley Milgram's obedience experiment, 1963. Control. Obedience to authority as a form of externally imposed control. Game dynamics. Subjects' ways, personal morals, fees, punishment, fees, perceived authority, legitimacy. Ash conformity experiments, 1950. C. Control. Peer pressure serves as feedback to correct wrong perceptions. Game theory angle. Strategic alignment with the group to avoid social punishment, even against one's perception. D. Ultimatum game plus inequity aversion, Fair and Schmidt, 1999. Participants reject unfair offers even if it means earning less, showing how emotional fairness overrides rational self-interest. Shows internal regulation, for example, self-respect and dignity against external strategy. E. Tragedy of the commons and climate psychology. Control theory element. Managing individuals' behaviour towards global goals. Game theory element. Everyone is incentivized to defect unless there are trust or institutional mechanisms. F. Nudge theory. Fowler and Sunstein, 2008. Strategic manipulation of the environment, known as the game setup, to influence behaviour without overt coercion. Subtle control systems, default options, framing, and reward feedback. Let's now look at control and game theory in indoctrination, perception, and influence. This directly feeds into the Inversiverse lens, how systems shape belief, perception, and identify through strategic and feedback-based mechanisms. Indoctrination as a control system. Feedback suppression. Indoctrination limits critical feedback by A. Controlling information, the perception of control. B. Punishing dissent, negative feedback. And C. Rewarding conformity, known as positive feedback. Goal manipulation. The individual internalizes external goals, e.g. ideology, nationalism, as their own. Closed-loop perception. Dissonant input is reinterpreted or blocked. These are known as echo chambers and dogma. Game theory and influence and indoctrination. Iterated strategic play, such as cult leaders, advertisers, or propagandists build trust. Then escalate demands, similar to the foot-in-the-door technique. Incentive structuring, reward conformity, punish deviance. Credibility and signalling, appearances of expertise or social proof influence whether individuals buy into messages. Example, in cult dynamics, we have component, control theory, and game theory. Belief feedback, indoctrinated feedback loop, e.g. scriptures and surveillance. Game theory, groupthink incentives and penalties. Component, authority, alters internal reference points through game control theory, and acts as dominant strategy enforcer. Component, exit costs. Control theory, fear, guilt, isolation as resistance to behavioural change. And game theory, strategic trap, high cost of deflection. Component, influence, tools. Control theory, controlled vocabulary, thought-terminating cliches. Game theory, reputation and power games within hierarchy. Perception distortion. Perception is shaped not just by what is sensed, but by what one is allowed to sense or say. Social feedback loops shape the filter through which reality is interpreted. Game theory explains how people align publicly, even when misaligned privately. To avoid strategic costs, this becomes pluralistic ignorance or preference falsification, as quoted by Curran, 1995. Tools for conscious perception. How to see what's controlling you and choose differently. When you begin to see how your perception has been shaped, bent by marketing, steered by systems, gamed by incentives, it's like realizing the lens you've been looking through isn't your own. The distortion doesn't come from a single source, it's layered, cultural, psychological, neurological, technological, and once you see the distortion, the next question is, how do I clean the lens? How do I move from being a passive receiver of influence to an active participant in my own perception? That's where tools come in, not just tools for survival, but tools for clarity, for freedom, for conscious choice. In this next section, we'll explore those tools, starting with one of the most powerful and most underused, critical thinking. Not just the kind that memorizes and argues, but the kind that sees through illusions, that asks better questions, that defends your mind in a world built to distract, persuade, and program. Because if you can think clearly, you can begin to see clearly, and that's where awareness truly begins. Critical thinking, the mental defense mechanism. Let's start with something that's often misunderstood. Critical thinking. It's not about being cynical or always skeptical. It's about being conscious of how you think. Critical thinking is the ability to question what you are seeing or hearing, to analyze a message, break it down, and ask, what is this trying to make me believe? Who benefits if I accept this as true? In a world engineered to influence you, critical thinking is your firewall. It helps you recognize manipulation, whether in a news article, a TikTok video, or a political speech. It also helps you decode the systems we've been exploring, the strategies behind marketing, the predictable moves in game theory, and the feedback loops used by control systems. The truth is, thinking critically isn't about finding the right answer, it's about refusing to settle for the first answer someone hands you. Number 1. Critical thinking, the mental defense mechanism. What is it? The ability to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information objectively. It challenges assumptions, detects bias, and filters manipulative messaging. Real-world examples. Media literacy. People trained in critical thinking are better at identifying fake news. Example. During a 2016 election, a Stanford study found that 82% of students could distinguish between sponsored content and real news. Those trained in media literacy performed significantly better. Corporate framing. Greenwashing. Marketing that makes a company appear more environmentally friendly than it is. In an example, BP's carbon footprint calculator was a PR strategy to shift responsibility from corporations to individuals. A critical thinker would ask, why would a fossil fuel company promote individual accountability? Studies and reference. Kahneman's and Tversky's cognitive bias theory demonstrated how human judgment is vulnerable to systematic biases. Carl Sagan's baloney detection kit, practical tools for evaluating arguments and claims. Richard Paul and Linda Elder, the miniature guide to critical thinking, foundation for critical thinking. Let's take a quick look at baloney detection kit from Carl Sagan. Tools and skeptics should keep ready. Seek independent confirmation of alleged facts. Encourage an open debate about the issues and the available evidence. In science, there are no authorities. At most, there are experts. Come up with a variety of competing hypotheses explaining a given outcome. Considering many different explanations will lower the risk of confirmation bias. Don't get too attached to your own ideas. Lest you get reluctant to reject them even in the face of evidence to the contrary. Quantify, whether possible, allowing for easier comparisons between hypotheses. Relatively explanatory power. Every step in an argument must be logically sound. A single weak link can doom the entire chain. When the evidence is inconclusive, use Occam's razor to discriminate between hypotheses. Pay attention to falsifiability. Science does not concern itself with unfalsifiable propositions. Discernment, the inner compass. But logic alone isn't enough. That's where discernment comes in. Discernment is a different form of critical thinking. It's the ability to feel when something's off, to sense what's real, even when the facts are fuzzy. Where critical thinking filters information, discernment filters intention. It's a guts feeling when someone's lying. Even if their words sound convincing, it's a subtle energy shift when a message is meant to manipulate you, even when it's dressed in truth. Discernment helps you navigate grey areas, detect emotional bait, and hear your own voice through the noise. It's trained through stillness, reflection, and self-awareness. It's what allows you to say, this doesn't sit right with me, and I don't need the spreadsheet to prove it. Discernment, the inner compass continued. So what is it? An intuitive sense of what resonates as true, often blending emotional intelligence with ethical clarity. It's especially useful when logic alone isn't enough. Real-world examples. Advertising. 2 health brands may offer similar products, but one uses subtle, guilt-based language. Discernment can detect emotional manipulation behind polished messages. Example. If you really loved your children, you choose organic. A framing tactic that uses emotional coercion rather than facts. Moral clarity. When someone technically tells the truth but conceals intent. Example. In whistleblower situations like Frances Haugen of Facebook and Meta, discernment was needed to interpret whether the company's stated goals, connecting people, match their actions, amplifying division. Especially when she mentioned during the hearing, the Facebook whistleblower said its algorithms are dangerous, and here's why. Frances Haugen's testimony at the Senate hearing raised serious questions about how Facebook algorithms work, and echoes many other findings from other researchers. Studies and references. Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence, shows how emotional awareness is a key component of sound judgment. Antonio Damasio, Descartes' Error, argues that emotion is essential for making rational decisions. Pure logic is not enough. And somatic psychology suggests the body can sense incongruence before the mind does. Actions and words have to follow to be congruent. If words do not match actions, then that individual is being incongruent, therefore they're being insincere, and you will feel that within your gut. Follow those feelings. It's the truth. It's why you have intuition. Use it. Determinism, understanding the system to reclaim agency. Now let's talk about determinism. It's the idea that everything, every choice, every thought is caused by something that comes before it. It sounds heavy, even hopeless, but it's actually liberating. If our decisions are shaped by our environment, our experiences, and our conditioning, then we can start to trace them. We can then ask, why do I react this way? Where did that belief come from? Is this my pattern or someone else's programming? Determinism doesn't strip you of free will. It helps you understand the systems that influence your behaviour, so you can step outside them. It lets you see the move being made before you even play your hand. Determinism, understanding the system to reclaim agency. So what is agency? Definition: the capacity of individuals to have the power and resources to fulfill their potential. So what is it? The philosophical and psychological idea that human behaviour follows causal chains, meaning beliefs and reactions often come from prior conditioning or unseen systems. Real-world examples: consumer behaviour prediction. Companies use behavioural determinism models to predict future choices. Example: Target's prediction pregnancy model could infer someone is expecting a baby based on subtle purchasing patterns before they even told their family. Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit. Addiction and habit loops. Our behaviours are driven by cues and rewards, often unconsciously. Example: smokers might think they're choosing to smoke, but the cue craving response reward loop is a deterministic cycle studied in behavioural psychology. Socialization and belief systems. Cultural programming influences political and religious identities. Example: people raised in authoritarian households are more likely to value order and control later in life. Altemeyer's work on right-wing authoritarianism. Studies and references. B.F. Skinner, Operant Conditioning, demonstrated that behaviour could be shaped by systems of reward and punishment, which are previously highlighted in episodes of the Inversiverse. Alberto Bandura, Social Learning Theory, emphasizes the influence of modelling, observation, and environment on their individual actions. Spolsky, Robert, Behave and Determinism and Free Will, neuroscientific case for how environment, genetics, and experiences shape our choices. Integrating the tools, becoming aware in the game. So, what happens when we bring these tools together? We ask. Critical thinking keeps your mind sharp. Discernment keeps your heart aligned through emotional awareness and being present in the moment. Determinism keeps your eyes on the system behind the scenes. Together, they form your perceptual shield. They turn passive experience into conscious awareness. They help you spot the influence and, more importantly, you choose your response. Because when you understand the feedback loops, the strategy, the hidden controls, you are no longer just in the game, you're playing it consciously. Integrated awareness, becoming a conscious agent. By using these tools together, you begin to see how your environment shapes your thoughts, determinism. Sense when you're being manipulated, discernment, and think your way through the influence with critical thinking. Every ad, every political message, every belief you've absorbed, ask, what does this serve? Why do I believe it? And do I feel aligned with it? So let's conclude this episode of the Inversiverse. In this episode, we started with marketing, the language of influence, the crafted illusions, the way our attention is bought, sold, and guided, often without us realizing what we're giving away. Then we step back to look at the rules behind the curtain, game theory, where strategy becomes survival, where players don't just make moves, they anticipate, manipulate, and optimize, and whether you know it or not, you're always playing. Zooming out further, we explored control theory, the systems that regulate behavior, emotions, and beliefs. Feedback loops, adjustments and corrections, not just in machines, but in minds, institutions, and societies. Control doesn't always look like force. Sometimes it looks like design. If you can maneuver people's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs to how you want them as a controller, giving them a false sense of security, presenting an illusion that distorts perception to elicit feelings and thoughts, to have individuals believe their reality is they are voluntarily acting for themselves, then there's no need for force. But when you awaken, the world changes and you cannot unsee society for what it actually is. This is known as realization and actualization. We're not always acting with autonomy. Then we arrived here, at the edge of all that external noise, with the one tool that helps us see through it, critical thinking, the mind sharpened, the observer awakened. The player is no longer being played. This wasn't just a tour and exploration of tactics and systems. It was an invitation to take your perception back, to question what's guiding you, to choose consciously how you participate in this world of persuasion, strategy, and control. Because real freedom isn't just about escaping the system, it's about seeing it clearly and moving through it with awareness. You are already in the game. I'm James, and thanks for joining me in this episode of the Inversiverse. The question is, are you playing the game with your eyes and mind truly open? Thanks once more, and bye.